Even though Toledo, Ohio is where he's from, when it comes to college football, no doubt that Ann Arbor, Michigan is home to Jim Harbaugh. After all, he played there and won a lot of games at quarterback in the 1980s under Bo Schembechler. And then in the NFL, played for 4 different teams, including the Indianapolis Colts in 1995, where they were 1 play away from going to the Super Bowl, falling just short at Pittsburgh. And of course, Harbaugh would make his name even more known in the college ranks as a coach. And then we saw him coach in the NFL in 2002 with the Oakland Raiders as a quarterback's coach. Not only did Rich Gannon, the quarterback that year, win the MVP award, but the Raiders made it to the Super Bowl 37. Head coaching wise, Jim Harbaugh has won wherever he's gone. San Diego State, back-to-back 11-win seasons. And of course, the Stanford Cardinal in the late 2000s and early 2010s, including getting and winning the Orange Bowl in 2010. And the San Francisco 49ers, the NFL platform as head coach, and he turned San Francisco around, and they just about won Super Bowl 47, falling just a little bit short against Baltimore, and then the following year almost getting back there, and would have if it hadn't been for Richard Sherman picking off that pass late in that game. Jim Harbaugh, like I said, where he's gone, he has won. He has a football pedigree, the personality, the attitude. He knows the game. And I have no doubt that Michigan is going to eventually get to the level where Ohio State and Michigan State are at right now in the Big Ten East. And that is a pretty high level of football. Jim Harbaugh, though, he's going to need time. Remember, Harbaugh could have taken $8 million per year to be the head coach at Michigan. That's initially what they were offering. Instead, he did not want to be the highest paid coach in college football or even in the Big Ten Conference. So $5 million per year, yeah, I guess that'll do. But Harbaugh knows he has a lot of work to do. The thing I love about Harbaugh is that he does not want the focus to be on himself. His players know that as well. So if you're a reporter at a press conference and you're going to ask a question about him, he's going to deflect it, okay? If he wants it to be about the team, the players, that's okay too. His vision in Michigan is to get them at that level where they once were. Last season, they didn't go to a bowl game. They only won 5 games, and if it wasn't for that defense, which returns a lot of pieces entering this season, they would have won even fewer games than that, if you can believe that. Again, this is Michigan. This is the maize and blue, the winningest program in college football. You cannot fault the defense for last year's disappointment for 2014. And you'll have several members of that D coming back for the 2015 season. Jabril Peppers is one of them, the highly touted recruit from 2014. Hopes that he can, contribute the entire year. And if so, you'll watch this guy shine. Safety Jared Wilson, he returns as well for the Maize and Blue, along with teammate safety DeMonte Thomas. And at the corner, you'll have Jordan Lewis. Last season, Michigan, top 7 in the country in total defense, head and shoulders above most. Only 6 other teams had better yardage per game as far as defense went. 311 yards per game is all that Michigan sacrificed in 2014. And again, you have quite a few members back, but not everybody. You will miss out on Jake Ryan, Frank Clark, and Brennan Byer. All have moved on. Ryan was there forever at linebacker, and Frank Clark, by the way, 2nd-round draft pick by the Seattle Seahawks, and Brennan Byer, although he wasn't picked, he's trying to make it to Jim's brother's team, John Harbaugh, with the Baltimore Ravens. But you do return Joe Bolden, and Joe Bolden will put a hit on you. He can wrap up, very fundamentally sound. Doesn't rush the quarterback a lot, but from his linebacker spot last season, the senior made 102 tackles. So you'll have him along with Desmond Morgan, who last year was troubled with an arm injury, and James Ross III. You'll have his experience back as well. Defensive line, though, again, you don't have Byer back or Frank Clark. You're going to really miss them on the line. So Chris Worley now has to assert that role as leader from the defensive end spot, and you'll have defensive tackles Brian Monet, who did play some last year, along with Ryan Glasgow, another defensive tackle. But there's not really a whole lot of experience compared to the other 2 layers on the defense in terms of that line. So they'll have to develop pretty quick because their opener is against a pretty physical team in Utah, which we'll talk about later. But Michigan last year 15th in rush defense in the country. They were spectacular. Only 117 yards per game is all they sacrificed. That's the defense. The offense, this is the reason why Brake Hoke doesn't have a job anymore as head coach. Their offense, to say it was terrible, if you hear these statistics, well, that'd be redundant, okay? Minus 16 in takeover category, 109th in the country or worse in pass, total, and scoring offense. They were absolutely ugly to watch. Biggest reason I thought, other than Devin Funchess, who's moved on to the NFL to really compound the problem for Harbaugh's offense, they really didn't have playmakers, okay? Devin Gardner, he wasn't always healthy. He wasn't always consistent. The ground game wasn't bad, but, this team last year only averaged 20 points per game. They were basically going in quicksand as the year progressed. And the fact that this team even won 5 games last year is amazing when you consider how bad their offense was. And, by the way, dead last in the Big Ten. 14 out of 14 teams when it came to yards per game, only 333. Biggest question I have, who's going to play quarterback now that Gardner's moved on? You can go with Shane Morris, who played some last season, or you can go with the Iowa transfer Jake Rudock, whom last season was 4th in the Big Ten when it came to passing efficiency. Obviously, Morris has the edge because he knows the Michigan offense a little bit better, and I wouldn't expect it to be a whole lot of variation. Probably just needs attitude change and fundamentals really installed in them, and that's why you have Harbaugh and his staff there in place of Hoke and his staff. So Morris, I think, would have the edge, but Rudock had better stats last year for Iowa, and by the way, this is Rudock's final year of eligibility. Michigan has a total, believe it or not, of 8 quarterbacks on the roster. So Harbaugh is obviously going to have his pick there, but Morris and Rudock would appear to be at the top of the depth chart. Running game, plenty of experience back with Derek Green and also Devion Smith, who last season had 519 yards rushing and 6 TDs, and Ty Isaac could see some action too. Offensive line nearly returns everybody, including Graham Glasgow. You'll have him up front, Kyle Callis at his right guard spot, and then also too, you'll have both the left guard and the left tackle returning for Michigan. And you will miss out, though, on Jack Miller, who played quite a bit during his career, not coming back for his senior year. He retired this past spring, so that's really a shame. Jake Butt, he returns at tight end, and he only caught 2 TD passes a year ago, but keep in mind that Michigan as a team only has 5 TD catches returning as far as experience goes, and that would include the receiver, Amara Darball, 473 yards catching and getting 2 TD catches, and Freddie Canteen, whom you'll have at another wideout. Devin Funchess, he's moved on, and he was probably your most reliable receiver. So now I think Darball will probably be the main target, but they have got to get more of a passing game. It was horrible in every way, shape, and form. Only 170 yards per game is what they average, 4th worst in the Big Ten. Well, as you can tell, Michigan will get familiar with the state of Utah twice in this month, including the opener in Salt Lake City. That's a pretty tough matchup. Utah's pretty physical up front. That could be trouble for the Wolverines. Last season, Utah walloped Michigan. Get BYU later in the month. They have a good rushing attack. And October, we'll have some challenges. Go to Maryland, and of course you host Michigan State later, and there's that matchup against Minnesota, who won 9 games a year ago. And November, how about this? The last 2 games, they won't be fun at all. At Penn State and Ohio State, but at least you get the Buckeyes at home. Michigan, do I think that they are going to contend for the Big Ten? Not this season, but because Harbaugh's there, because he's won wherever he's gone, Michigan fans just need to be patient with him, because I do think his recruiting base is going to hit areas like the South, for example, where Michigan may not have explored that much in the past. I do think he'll get better players there, and I do think with his philosophy and with his coaching, I believe that Michigan, in time, will be right there with Ohio State and Michigan State as well. But this year, I see them more as a spoiler rather than a contender. I'm going to go 8-4 and 5-3 with a 3rd place finish in the Big Ten East. That's my look at the Wolverines. Catch you next time.